like, how long do you want? I was like, oh, fucking hell. An hour and a half, no more,
So
please.
that was you, was it? That said an hour and a half.
Well, I think he said he had a 2 hour slot, and I said, oh God, I can't
Hmm.
talk for 2 hours. Bill probably can, but I can't.
Yes, you can. Just say mega loads.
Yeah. Just talk really slowly. Are we actually live now?
Yeah, we are live.
Oh,
It's only a catch up and cup of tea, isn't it? So
yeah.
it's not like hello
It's the
everyone.
last time I was sat there doing my hair, and you were like,
Let's have like a
or in
secret.
my dressing gown, and I accidentally went live.
I did check, didn't we, that you weren't in your pajamas before we sorted this live out. So professional, aren't we?
I know.
How's it all going? Are you able to show the members of the group, Frank? Is he around?
Do you know what? Frank is around. However, he's in bed currently with the other half having a nap.
They're both having a nap.
They're both having a nap and giving me a break. But I will do a live on my group at some point and get him to come and say hello, because he's got a lot bigger since I first got him.
Wow, is he? And
Yeah, he's not massive, but he's big.
How are you finding being a Dachshund mum or a Dachshund owner? I don't know if that's offensive, a Dachshund mum.
I have massive respect for people who have kids because honestly, I am so tired because that little shit doesn't sleep. And no one tells you, how tired. Oh, I'll get a puppy, it'd be great, it's lovely, and they're so cute, and you can, do everything with them, but they don't tell you the bits where they don't sleep, or they just bark or wee and poo everywhere, or eat other dogs' poo, which is disgusting, and then try and kiss you, and you're like, ugh. Or get ill or eat everything in sight. 5 vet trips to the point where the vet is feeling sorry for me and actually doing stuff for free. Like, that's how often I've been. He's on first name basis with all the vets.
Dachshunds are a particular breed that aren't the easiest, I don't think, to have. We've got 2 of them, and when they were sort of rescued to us or given to us, and when we first got them, we had to reach out to Katie Saywell, the Dachshund specialist, because we're having some real issues with noise, with them not sleeping, with toileting inside, separation anxiety, all that sort of stuff. And I was like, Katie, you need to really sort of help us out here, because they are not. We just normally have Labradors, so they're not like Labradors whatsoever.
I mean, and then he doesn't bark so much.
Sorry?
He doesn't bark that much, to be fair.
Our 2 just growl at each other. They're sisters, and they don't always get up. You do have to look out the window, don't you, and see what the weather's like, and then sort of the day as to you're going to.
If it's raining, you're screwed. Yeah. If it's raining, I just sort of accept the fact that he's going to wee and poo inside, because he screams if it's wet, like literally screams, and I just feel like a really bad dog parent when you've got the puppy there like squealing its head off. And you just think, oh God. And then you just bring him in and he's just like, poop, poos on the floor, and you think, little bugger. But then he just looks at you with his cute little face, and you're a bit like, oh, okay, here's a treat.
Oh, you don't treat him for putting on the floor?
No, I don't. I tell him off. I'm like, Frank, no.
Don't do it. But yeah, you do have to like work out what the weather's like and then plan your day around that, because they are just dirty little dogs sometimes, aren't they?
Yeah, it eats other people's poo. It's absolutely disgusting.
So anyway,
enough
about Frank. There's obviously been quite a few people join the group since we last did a live. So maybe you want to just sort of introduce yourself and tell people who you are and what you do and how you can help them.
Yes. So yeah, it's been a good few months since we last did one. Hello everyone, I am Vicky, and I run an accountancy business called The Pet Accountant, which you may have seen floating around on Bill's group and various other groups, and I've also got an accounting for pet professionals group, which basically is to help you guys with any sort of accounting queries that you may have, or tax return queries, or anything sort of financy that everyone hates. Just chuck it in the group, and generally will answer it fairly quickly. I only deal with pet professionals, so I would probably say 75% of my client base is probably groomers. and then the rest are made up with doggy daycare, boarders, trainers, people who sell dog treats, everything, anything and everything pet related is who I deal with. So I know the industry very, very well. I know what you should be claiming for, which is a massive benefit, because people give me their accounts and there's so much missing that they could be claiming for that they're not. And again, a generic accountant probably won't know that what savvy is, for example, to even know whether you can claim for it. So it's just little stuff like that, if I look at a set of accounts and think, right, you can claim for that, you can claim for that, you can claim for that. And I've probably found, since niching in this industry at the beginning of the year, that I would say probably 95% of people aren't doing it properly. And I wish I was exaggerating, but I'm not. And that's either a mixture of things. So either they're not registering on time or doing it properly. So for example, someone said to me once, oh, well, I just wanted to see how my business got on before I registered with HMRC. And that was like a year ago. You can't do that. There's a 90-day window for you to register your business. It's just an example. Or people aren't claiming everything that they can claim for. So they're paying the tax man $2 or $3 grand a year, when really they shouldn't be, because they're just not claiming everything that they can claim for. There's loads of things, but they're probably the two main things. Or you go on various groups and people are giving people wrong advice. That's the vein of my life. When people put in like a financy question and everyone jumps on and says, no, this is it, and 9 times out of 10 the advice that's given is wrong. So it's it is a bit of a minefield, and it's one of those things that people always put to the bottom of their list, isn't it? Like no one's going to be like, oh, I'm going to do my record keeping today on a Saturday. It's just not going to happen. It's always at the bottom of the pile, but it's probably the most important, because, and you'll know a bit, like, how can you know that you've got a successful business, or which direction to take your business in, if you have not got the finance bit down? People are getting fined. I've had clients that haven't submitted last year's tax return, never mind this year's tax return, and HMRC will just carry on fining you if you don't do it, and they don't care. So it's one of those.
It's the ostrich syndrome, isn't it? Sticking your head in the sand and just bearing it deeper and deeper and hoping it goes away.
Exactly, and it's not the most exciting topic. When people dread, oh God, 6th of April, 5th of April, I've got to do my tax return. And the best advice I can give you is get help, because you might think, oh, an accountant's really expensive. We're not that expensive, and guaranteed 100% I will save you your fee, because you won't have claimed stuff that you can claim for, like 100%. I saved one lady £7,000 because she wasn't going to claim something that she'd put in her house for the dog grooming business, and I said yes you can, and put it in, saved her £7 grand. So is always that question of, can you do a tax return yourself? Yes, you can. Anybody can do a tax return. Your grandma can do your tax return if you really wanted her to, but it's, are you putting in the right information in the right boxes, and are you claiming what you should be claiming for? Is probably the main element of it, and a lot of people aren't. And I've found that by all the new clients that I've had over the last 6 months, that they're not claiming everything that they should be. And ultimately are paying 2 or 3, 4 grand a year tax bill.
Yeah, and I think we were discussing this just a minute ago, weren't we? Setting up my own business and going through the government gateway and the portals, and the government systems just aren't set up to help you. They do rely on your honesty, and then they just ask you questions that you just don't know what the answer is, but they rely on you to answer them. They don't actually give you any sort of prompts or helps or any support. They just assume, I think they come from a position where they assume you know what you're doing, or you know what to put in the boxes.
Yeah, it is. It's not the best. If you typed into Google, can I claim, I don't know, can I claim for dog biscuits as an expense? You're not really going to get an answer. Or, can I claim petrol as an expense? And you'll probably get 50,000 different answers. Or, if you go and register as self-employed, as a sole trader, once you put your email address in, you get loads of boxes of what you need to tick, and people never know what to tick, because you're not told what to tick. And whenever I spoke to people, I always get a WhatsApp, randomly during the day going, Vicky, which one do I tick? Because it's not obvious. If you don't have a finance background or a business background, and you go on to the government website, for the first time, you might as well be reading it in Japanese, because it just makes no sense to anybody. And I do get a lot of WhatsApps being like, right, now which one do I tick? And it's fine, because I want people to click the right one, because then by the time they get to me, if they've done it wrong, then it's a lot harder for me to try and rectify than if they just do it right in the first place. But it's just one of those things that, people are very good at grooming and training, doing that element of it. But, if you don't have the training on the business side, which is why we do that business course, if you don't have that training, how the hell do you know if you're doing it right? People could be sat there watching this going, oh, I do my own tax return, I don't need an accountant. Fair enough, but how do you know you're doing it right? Because no one teaches you.
No,
how do you know? There's like 1 million boxes on that tax return, and I would say probably 80% of them you don't need, like most of the time. But are you putting stuff in the right box? Are you carrying losses forward? Are you offsetting a loss that you've made in your grooming business against your PAYE job? Probably not. And there's all these little tips of why people hire people like me or a bookkeeper to do these things for you, so that you don't need to stress about, am I putting this in the right box? Why have I got a £5,000 tax bill? And it's just these little tips that we can give them, that they don't have to pay that for a minimal fee, really, which is also an allowable expense. So it's kind of a win-win. You're paying maybe, I don't know, 300 quid for someone to do your sole trader accounts, but you'd save that and what they can save you in the first place, and plus it's an allowable expense. So
I think one of the differences that I've heard over the last few months is when dealing with someone like yourself who niches within the pet industry, the groomers and the people that use your services, they don't feel as though they don't matter. Whereas maybe when they use like big accountancy firms or sort of a mixed practice firm which deal with all different kind of businesses, and then they come along and go, it's little old me, I'm just a dog groomer, you're not really interested in what I do. And then I've certainly heard instances where accountants don't go out of their way to explain stuff, whereas you're like proactively trying to save your clients money, aren't you? You're proactively pointing out the expenses.
Yeah, that's why I did the Facebook group. I don't think any other accountant does a free Facebook group. Most of them, 9 times out of 10, will charge for any sort of advice that they give. The reason I did the Facebook group was because a lot of people were obviously on my business page, which you can't really interact with people on the business page. So I thought, I'll do a group so that people can ask questions and in a safe environment, and get a very straightforward, jargon-free answer. Because like you said, a lot of big accountancy firms, it doesn't really matter what industry you're in. If you're a small company, if you go to a big corporate accountancy firm on the high street, then they're not really going to pay you much attention. They will not give you the time that you need. And if they do, they'll charge you for it. And like you said, they don't really understand the industry. Every accountant will do your tax return in the same way, but it's how they communicate with you, how they explain things, like you say, and the fact that most of my clients, they WhatsApp me, they text me, they email me, they ring me on a weekend, and they know that once they've contacted me, they're not going to be waiting a month for an answer. Like generally, it'll either be on the same day or the next day, and they get a very straightforward answer. It's not like, I'm going to send you, a 5-page document that may as well be written, in gobbledygook, because it just does not make sense. So yeah, you're right. If you, and you'll pay more as well. If you go to a posh accountancy firm on the high street, with their like fancy coffee machines and sofas and all that sort of stuff, you're going to be paying more money, and you're probably not going to get the best service. Yes, they'll do your tax return properly because they're professionals, but will you get that service and that interaction? Because you're paying someone, they should be an extension of your business, not just a random person that you go to once a year to give them your paperwork. They should be helping you. That's the whole point.
I think that's what I'd like to see from an accountant, is to be proactively helping their clients. And I was talking to one of my clients that I help and coach the other day, and she's a limited company, and we were talking something I want to come on to anyway about employee perks and benefits and rewarding your employees. But I was having to guide the lady through what you can claim as a limited company, through the allowable expenses as a limited company. But I'm just sitting there thinking, why don't, when you enroll a limited company into your books, why isn't this all covered? Talking about I think it's £150 per employee per year you can spend on them. So take them out for Christmas dinner, and then you've got the trivial expenses where you can buy gift cards and vouchers and stuff like that, which is all tax deductible. You can put through your books, but it's like a revelation for some people. They're like, oh my God. And I only found out about that searching the internet. Even I didn't get told that by the trivial expenses. Even I didn't get told that from my accountant. So
I think it's difficult because I think there's probably loads of reasons for it. But again, I think if you don't have that relationship with your accountant, the people probably don't feel that they can email or call their accountant, ask them those sort of questions. Do you know what I mean? They don't have that relationship where they can just ring up and go, oh, I'm going to do this, can I claim that? Or I'll just send Vicky a quick email, or just send Bill a quick email. They don't have that relationship. And, like I say, if you go to a big corporate firm, they've got thousands of clients. They don't have the time to spend personally on each business. So it'll be, oh, send me an email, I'll get back to you in a week. So people end up doing their own research, which is where it can go a bit wrong, because like I say, you put something in Google, you'll get 50,000 different answers, and you think, well, what the hell's the right one? And it's about having that person that you can ring up, and even you do, Vicky, can I do this? And it's just a straight yes or no answer, or yes but da 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 da, or no but da da da. It's about having that relationship with that person. Again, another reason why I did the group, so people can just put in there, oh, can I do this? And most of the time it's something that someone else wanted to ask. But I think, again, it's just having that confidence to ask those questions. And if you don't have that relationship with that person, then you shouldn't be paying them, in my books.
No, and I suppose it's having that time to interpret the government, because it's all out there on the government website. But fortunately, from a previous employment I had, I'm quite used to reading government documents and understanding the spirit, I suppose, because everything's within the spirit of what they want you to do. So you can you learn how to read what the government want you to do and what they're happy with. But sometimes you could look at that and just go, oh my God, and then you just switch off, and then you don't go out and buy that Amazon voucher, say, because you're just not sure whether you can or not.
Yeah, there is, HMRC do webinars on various different topics, which are quite good, and they do it for businesses, so not for people like me. They do it for business owners, that they can sit and watch on various different topics like expenses, VAT, registering a company and all that sort of stuff. I think they're on YouTube as well, as far as I'm aware. I just watched one yesterday on VAT. We have to watch them all the time because everything changes every 5 minutes. So the only good thing I can think of that they do are those little webinars. And if you miss them, you can just click on it, and it'll take you straight to it, and you just watch the recording of the webinar. So stuff like that is quite helpful. Yeah, I mean, it's, get yourself a gin. Get yourself a gin or a glass of wine, and make sure you're in a good mood, because you'll be asleep by the time you finished it. But again, or do you just take the stress out and pay someone to do it for you? Do you know what I mean? Like, I could wash my own car, but it's boring, so I just pay someone to do it because I can't be asked. And it's the same mentality people have about their accounts. Oh, I just can't be bothered. I have my clients that go to me, Vicky, I just can't be asked to do this. And I'm like, look, you need to just do it. But why stress, cause yourself so much stress when you can pay someone a minimal amount, realistically, unless you go to a corporate firm and you pay thousands, but a minimal amount just for someone to do it for you and take the stress away. Look, here's all my paperwork, here's my spreadsheets, here's my receipts, sort them out, come back to me with the account, and you've submitted them HMRC, bosh, done. Then there's nothing to worry about, and then you've got a grip of where you're at with your finances.
That's it. We are, as small business owners, we are time poor. We are busy selling our services and our products to people. We are time poor people that, we need to put value on our time, and that is to outsource as much as possible. Bookkeepers, accountants, all of that to help you with your work. Yeah. You could even think of them as like mini employees, but they're kind of contracted, but yeah, they're there to help you, to help you with getting more time back for yourself, I suppose.
Yeah, I think, like I say, it's registering your company is a massive issue in this industry. You know, what you can claim for, what you can't claim for. You know, that massive thing, that argument that we always have, whether to be a sole trader or a limited company, you know, or even a partnership. Everyone forgets about partnerships, and there's been a few people that I've spoke to that's crying out to be a partnership, but they just didn't even know it existed. Everyone just focuses on sole trader, limited company. But what about the partnership?
Is it quick just to run through the benefits of a partnership for anyone?
Yeah, so a very quick example. I had one client rang me and said that her husband is a groomer, and they have a grooming salon attached to their house, and she does all the admin for him and washes the dogs, and he does all the fancy stuff. And I said, all right, do you work? No, I don't work. All right, okay. Does he pay you? No. I thought, okay. So you've got him as a sole trader, and you sat there with a big 12.5 grand bobbing on top of your head that's not being used. I said, well, have you thought about being a partnership? And then you can take that 12.5 grand from his profit, give it to you. You're not paying tax. He's paying tax on a lot less money. Oh, yeah. Didn't even know partnership existed. So now they're a partnership. He's paying a hell of a lot less tax because we're utilizing her because she's not working. So in that scenario, it's probably the best time to be a partnership. You know, if you've got a family member that's not in work, you know, I've got some clients that have husband, wife, and their 2 kids as a partnership. You know, they're 18, 19, they're not working. Why not? You know, that's all. I mean, this is the thing with partnership. There's not many loopholes with HMRC. The partnership is a loophole, you know, because like I said, you've got a family of 4. Dad, say, is a builder. You know, mum doesn't work, and you've got the 2 19-year-old kids that do a little bit, you know, help the dad on various jobs, but not really. Put them all in a partnership. Bosh, there you go. A lot less tax.
You're using all of their tax allocations, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, my kids are 12 and 8. I take it that's not good.
No, slave labor. But you know, it's like 12.5 grand to him, 12.5 grand to her, and then 12.5 grand to your partner. That's money that you would have originally paid tax on. So 36 grand that you would have paid tax on, that you're now giving a proportion, obviously not giving, but on paper giving a portion amount away. There you go. Job done. So yeah. It's, you know, business partners is different because obviously, you know, I've had a few people ring me up who've been in partnerships and it's gone a bit sour. And then you've got, you know, I suppose it's quite hard to then get all the paperwork together when it's joint if you end up falling out. So I guess the downside is, you know, doing it with family is a lot easier. You know, if you're doing it with a friend and you want a partnership with a friend, then obviously you've got to make sure that you're both on the same page and you aren't going to piss each other off. And if one person disappears, then it makes it very hard to do the tax return because you haven't got half of the information.
Yeah, and I think, again, just like taking out an accountant's advice, I think if you're going to go into something like that, even if you're friends, family, whatever, it's probably best to spend a bit of money and getting some agreements in place, isn't it? So that...
Yeah, you could do, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wish I'd done that with my uncle.
Yeah, you just threw him out into Spain though instead.
Yeah, he's sunning himself in Spain, drinking a margarita right now, probably. So he's got the worst end of the straw, probably me.
Just out of interest, do you have any contacts that could help people with the split up of businesses or the dissolving a business, things like that?
What do you mean, sort of getting rid of a limited company?
Or breaking a partnership, or like getting rid of a company director. Do you have anyone that you use?
They can ring me. I can sort that out. Or if it's gonna get a bit tasty between partners and directors, and I'd go to a solicitor, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think accountants know everything and everything. You know, we don't. When it comes to sort of tax returns, yes, but solicitory type stuff is not our forte. and stuff like pensions and mortgages, you look at more of a financial advisor. So again, it's knowing who to contact. If you want agreements, go to a solicitor. If you want your tax return and all the financing bit done, go to an accountant. If you want pensions, savings, mortgages, all that, is a financial advisor. So we all do different elements of the same job, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just get people, I think, just need to ask for help and ask the questions. Don't sit there, like say, and put your head in the sand. There's courses out there. You run a course, I've got a finance workshop that will help people get where they need to be. If you're going to quit your full-time job to do your dog grooming business and you're throwing thousands of pounds into it, the course isn't cheap. That's on average 5 or 6 grand. Then you've got all the equipment, but that's got to be about at least 2 or 3, 4 grand. Then you've got everything else on top of that, your clothing, conversions, pods, sheds, whatever. And then spending £200 on a course, £300 on a course seems, oh god, no. But and it's kind of like, you need that foundation in order to build the business. You can't build the business on water. It's just not going to work. So you need to build that solid foundation. Think, do you know what? I've done my grooming course. I've done a finance course. I've done a business course. I'm ready. Bang, gone. Rather than 2 years down the line going, oh, my pod's still half done. I can't. What can I do? And you're still in the same place. I did it when I first joined my uncle. I just sort of plodded along and didn't really do anything, didn't invest in anything. It's just me and my computer. And then it's only in the last sort of 2 or 3 years I thought, you know what, I need to get a grip. I'm not getting any younger. I'm only 34, but I'm not getting any younger. And I was literally every year I would sit down and think, I've not actually progressed anywhere. I'm still in the same place I was 12 months ago. So it's just about figuring out yourself what you need to invest in. Like, which part of my business is struggling. If it's a finance bit, get an accountant or a bookkeeper. If it's a business bit, get a coach to help you if you're shit at all that. I know, sorry, you're looking me. And it's a minimal investment, and most of these things are allowable expenses. So all the training courses that you go on, doesn't matter what it is, it's all an allowable expense. Any training materials you get an allowable expense. So all this sort of stuff that's going to help you with your business, can whack it on your spreadsheet or write it down if that's how you do it.
Yeah, I mean, when we sign people up for the business startup course, at the end of the conversation, it's like, this is a business expense. I'm going to invoice your business. What's your business name? And they're like, oh, really? It's like, yeah, it's business training. Yeah, so you can write it off against your tax at the end of the year. It's business training. So it's all to do with your business. Me and you are teaching people how to start and run their business. So train them. It's all for the business, isn't it?
Yeah. And they get that extra help. We do private Facebook group for all the people who do the course, and that's doing really, really well. There's loads of stuff on there, and people are getting a lot of information from me and you, and how to do their accounts and all that sort of stuff. So for a minimal investment, I think you'd be crazy not to do it, to be honest. Because like I say, the amount of people that I've spoken to over the last 6 months who've got themselves in the right pickle with their accounts and are paying me more to have to sort it out in the first place. Whereas if they just, took some advice at the beginning, then they wouldn't hit these pitfalls and they'd just be smooth sailing. And they'd say, yeah, I'll get an accountant, everything's set up properly. All my expenses are either on a spreadsheet or written down and everything's, as it should be, rather than 2 years down the line thinking, oh crap, I've not registered with HMRC, all my receipts are in a poo bag. You'd be surprised. I've had them in a poo bag, freezer bags, shoe boxes, bin liners. It's quite a clean poo bag though, just to
So going on to what something that Cheryl asked a few weeks ago, and something I touched on earlier about rewarding your employees. And what I wanted to know is it different if you're a sole trader to a limited company?
It is, yeah. There's obviously a lot more perks, like you mentioned, with a limited company and certain allowances you get. With a sole trader, it's it's a bit ambiguous, like most things are in accounting. It's, our favorite phrase is "it depends." Um, some accountants put it through entertainment expenses, and some don't. Technically, it's not really allowed, but if you didn't go mental with it, then most accountants would put it through under entertainment expense. But if it's like thousands of pounds because you've gone to Savoy for dinner, probably not. Again, it's got to be relative to your business. You would get away with, if you wanted to get your employees some pizza on a Friday night, it costs like 30 quid, then that's not unrealistic to put through. But it's a lot harder as a sole trader, as a limited company, because obviously the different rules. What you said is absolutely fine, but again, that doesn't relate to a sole trader company. But a few quid here and there isn't going to hurt. And unfortunately, with some accounting stuff, it is ambiguous, and that's with any expense. Some accountants will put clothing through, some won't. Some will only put protective clothing through, whereas people like me would put a bit extra because it's just common sense. But as long as it's all relative, then it's fine. Just don't go mad. The odd pizza here and there, the odd drink, Christmas dinner, all that sort of stuff, I would put through under entertainment expenses, but just don't go mad.
Yeah, and I think I suppose maybe that's where the limited company has some clear rules, I suppose, whereas the sole trader is a bit more.
Yeah, because the sole trader, your business is you are the business, whereas a limited company is a separate entity in its own right. So you're like an employee of your own business. So there's a lot more rules and regulations with a limited company, whereas a sole trader is a bit more fluid because it is just you. There's no separate part to it.
Yeah.
To try and keep it simple.
So what's the one thing that off the top of your head, the one thing that people always forget to claim on their accounts?
People who do it themselves never claim for use of house as an office or cleaning and laundry. And to partner that, they don't know how or how much to claim, because there's a set amount or there's a way you can work it out. And I don't think many people put that in, or they know about it, but they just don't know how to calculate it. And that can be quite a lot. If you've got a salon that's attached to your home, and your normal electric bill every month is not, say, I don't know, 50 quid, but then since you got the salon, it's now £150 a month, then that £100 difference is claimable. So that's £1,200, which is a lot of money to come off your tax return. So those two things are probably the two main things people don't put through. People don't put through costs of when they're renovating their pod or converting their garage, they don't put any of those costs through. Mobile telephone, they don't put through. Van expenses are 100% allowable, they don't put that through. Car's a bit more tricky, you're only allowed a percentage of a car. So if you want me to go through that, message me privately, because it's quite boring and long-winded. But basically, it's not as good as a van, but you can put a small percentage through.
Yeah.
The petrol and mileage is what people get confused with and probably do put in, but do it wrong. So, for example, if you've got a salon on a high street, people are claiming their mileage or their petrol to and from that salon, which you can't do because it's a commute. So you can't do that. Or people 1 year will claim mileage and then next year will claim petrol. Again, you can't really do that. HMRC like you to stick to one. So if you're going to pick mileage, you pick mileage. If you're going to pick petrol, you pick petrol, and you don't swap and change it.
And it's easy to do mileage now. There's loads of different apps, aren't there, out there to track your mileage.
QuickBooks do a really good mileage tracker. A lot of my clients use that. They just use the mileage tracker. They don't bother using it in any of the other bit of it, but that's really good. It's the same again with limited companies. You can't claim petrol on if it's not a company car, but people do. I'll just put my petrol on. We can't because it's not a company car. You can do mileage, but you can't do your petrol receipts. Again, that's something that people don't necessarily know. There's loads of stuff. I had one client that wasn't claiming her dog treats that she had in the salon. Oh, it's only £5 a week. well, that £5 a week is going to add up after 52 weeks. You know, it's just tiny stuff like that, or stationery, advertising,
Tea and
you
coffee.
know, tea and coffee. You know, there's loads of stuff. There's a free PDF on my website if anyone wants one. I just listed loads of standard expenses on there, to try and jog people's memories to put them in their expenses. But yeah, there's loads of stuff that people think, oh, I didn't think I'd put my mobile phone through, or my internet, or all the stationery that I buy, or Savvy, for example. You know, subscriptions to Total Grooming magazine. You know, books, training courses. There's so much that people go, oh yeah, I didn't think about that, and I spent £500 on training materials.
With mobile phones, obviously, like many years ago, everything was itemized and you paid for the contract, but then you paid for what you used. Whereas these days, it's all pretty much under one price, isn't it? It's free calls, free text messages for the same. So I've come across some people saying, well, I only put half of my phone in, or I only put a quarter of my phone in, and they try and divide it up. But surely you can't, HMRC would never turn around and say, well, I want to see how much of your phone you're using for business and how much, because we're using our phones for Facebook messages and text messages to our clients. And then, you know, I might message a client and then next minute message my friends. I'm using the same phone. So do you just put the whole thing through as an expense? Or?
I normally put the whole thing through unless someone has a really, really extortionate telephone bill. Again, as long as it's relative, if your telephone bill comes to like £5,000, then clearly we're not going to put all of it through. But you know, if you've got a plan that's like £35 a month or something, then I just put it all through, because again, like you say, how can you decipher? Everyone's always on their phone. If you're on Facebook, you might go on Facebook to look at your own Facebook page, but then you're on your business page, Instagram, you know, all that sort of jazz. So yeah, I just whack it all in, as long as it's not like, say, you've got some hideous, weird telephone charge. But yeah, just whack it all in. Same with internet. You know, if you're at home, and you're using the internet at home, I always put a proportion of the broadband fees through as well.
So I suppose the message is really, I suppose, is to get organised and to keep your invoices and your bills and then your receipts. Because I reckon people probably know some of this, but they just think, oh, you know, I can't be bothered to claim that £5. But then look at the bigger picture of how much that is over the whole year.
Yeah, they'll want to claim it when they see their tax bill. And then they're like, oh God, where have I put that receipt? Yeah, you know, you've got to get organised, you know, whether that's just putting all your receipts in a box file and then spending, you know, 2 days at one point just gathering it all up and putting it on a spreadsheet, you know, or writing it down. The more organised you are, the easier you'll find it. You know, using Excel spreadsheets, fine. It doesn't have to be anything fancy with loads of formulas. If you want to use a diary, again, that's fine. I do record keeping packs for groomers and other professions, which everything's in one place. So income, expenses, profit reports, parts for your receipts and invoices and bank statements. And the whole point of me doing that was because a lot of people said, I hate using computer. I don't like Excel. I prefer to write it down. So I put this pack together and said, right, everything will go in this pack. Either give it to your accountant or to me at the end of the year. Everything, or then you just have to pop that pack in an envelope, send it off. Or if you're doing it yourself, you've got everything there month order. And it's a lot easier to go through. Obviously, all that will change in a couple of years' time when everything goes digital, which we'll probably have another chat about when everyone loses their mind and has to use QuickBooks or Xero. It's going to be an absolute hell for me. I know 50% of my clients hate using technology, so it's going to be interesting. But for now, Excel, paper, diary, however you want to do it, as long as it's structured and you can follow it when you come to do your tax return.
Yeah, and even as simple as going into your inbox on your email system and set up a new folder called receipts. And then every time you get a PayPal receipt or a digital
Amazon,
receipt, the receipt folder.
Yeah, just put it in there. That's what I do with mine. So if I do any training courses, or I pay someone for advertising me stuff or whatever, and they send me an e-receipt, just go straight into the folder. And then I sort it out afterwards. I mean, I'm the worst when it comes to my own accounts, to be honest. I never have time to do them. So I should take my own advice, really. I've just got a box file and any loose receipts that if I go to the post office, just go straight in that box file, and I just sort it out at the end of the month.
A4 envelope with each month on it.
We'll do that. Yeah, or an envelope or polythene wallet or whatever, or my pack. Just whack it in and it's done. You've written it down, sorted. Rather than sort of getting to the 1st of January, 2nd of January and thinking, oh shit, I've only got 28 days now to sort my accounts out, and then get whacked with a £5,000 tax bill, and you've got till the 31st of January to pay it. So give yourself time, get it sorted now, rather than waiting.
That's it. So there's a couple of questions on the chat. You've got Vicky. Vicky. Hello, Vicky. She's a groomer as well as a dog breeder. Now that's interesting because my wife and I breed dogs. We breed Labradors and Dachshunds for our sins. I have asked our accountant, can we put that through the books? And the accountant was like, well, did the business buy the dogs? I was like, no.
Yeah.
But I think actually it's quite a good thing to think about, because the price of dogs now, if we say we go and say I know Inca's been scanned and she's got eight lab puppies, she's got at least 8 puppies, £2,000 per puppy. We're now talking a lot of money, and I'm a believer in paying taxes, so that's going to go through our books, but we want to make sure that we do that in the most tax efficient way and the best way to do it. So breeding was years ago, or not so long ago, breeding was like maybe a bit of cash in hand, but I'm not going to be asking people to come with £2,000 worth of cash, because people might actually not want to buy a puppy off us because they're going to think you're a bit strange, or what you're going to do with that money. So now we've got the nice problem of what we're going to do with all this money. We're going to save up to try and do an extension with it and stuff, but we're just going to have to swallow the pill and declare it at the end of the year, maybe split it between me and Emma, so we're using different, we're splitting it up. But that's something that we now got to consider, isn't it? As we're going to be making some money from these dogs now.
Yeah, I've got a couple of clients that breed dogs and do other things, and yeah, unfortunately the price of dogs now, it's a lot of money, and if you're honest, you should be putting it through your books. You can claim obviously all the food for the puppies, the vet's bills, all that sort of stuff that goes with the whole breeding element of it, so you can claim all those expenses to offset it. But yeah, you should definitely be putting it through your books. I mean, if you don't, you don't. I guess it's how your own conscience really. But like you say, a lot of breeders now, not proper ones, will be doing that cash in hand or not declaring it. I can imagine probably a high percentage of people won't claim it, but technically you are supposed to, like you say.
Yeah, and I think maybe some people don't realise that it is classed as income, isn't it? So maybe I have to talk about that off camera, becoming self-employed, or so, I don't know, register with it so I can start claiming back some of the dog stuff. But anyway, Vicky is a dog groomer and a dog breeder. She has no idea about accounts. Can I come in for you to help? Are your books open? Are you taking on customers? My
books are open. So yes, feel free to drop me an email. My details I do float about in Bill's group. If not, for everyone who's watching, my email address is very simple. It's inquiries@petaccountant, all one word, .co.uk. And my website is www.petaccountant.co.uk, and you can message me through there as well. So yes, if you haven't got a clue, and even if you just want me to check over what you've done, so I do offer a review service. So I've done a few recently where people have sent me their spreadsheets or give me access to their QuickBooks, and I've just gone in and made sure that they have claimed for everything, that they've done it all properly, and all the figures are in the right place and doing what they should be. So I do offer that as a review service if you don't want me to do your actual tax return. There's loads of stuff that I can do. So if people just want to drop me an email, you don't necessarily have to use me as an accountant. I do offer other services as well. But yes, feel free to pop me an email. And that goes for sole traders, partnerships and limited companies.
Yeah, I forgot we didn't discuss this, did we? Since the new year, you've expanded your services, haven't you?
Yeah, so I wasn't doing limited companies because my uncle, I worked with him and he was due to retire and he didn't want to take any more on. And I was full to the brim with doing other stuff. So now he's sort of retired. Damien, who I will be doing a chat with at some point, has come on board. So we've opened our books up again to limited companies and he will be managing in the background, that sort of stuff. People will still deal with me and go through me, but he'll be doing stuff in the background just to ease the pressure off me a little bit.
Cool. So you're open for sole traders and limited companies and partnerships?
Yep, and payroll.
And payroll.
And payroll, which seems to be a popular topic at the moment.
Yeah, and there's definitely stuff there with there's going to be a big push very soon with the new dog grooming apprentice coming out. I think there's going to be a massive sort of demand for payroll services and stuff like that.
Yeah, so if you do want any advice on payroll, one of the big advice is don't do it yourself because it is quite complicated. There's a lot of rules and regulations. Us as accountants, we have to do courses in order to do payroll. It's not a case of just logging on and putting some figures in a box. It is quite complicated. So please get in touch if you want, but it's very cheap. It's really not that expensive. It's anything from like £5 to £15 a month. And that's everything done for you. So that's it, set up, everything. We send you a pay slip, you pay them, that's it. Do the P60s, the P45s, everything, pensions. So for that amount of money, it really is very simple for us to do on your behalf. But if you are going to do it on QuickBooks yourself, just please make sure you do the research and the reading of what you need to actually include. But yes.
Yeah, I'm now banned. I banned myself from QuickBooks because I such a mess of it, and it's cost us a lot of money to put it all back. So going on to QuickBooks, which one do you prefer? Tina's asked, do you prefer QuickBooks or Xero?
I personally prefer. Who do I work for? I don't work for any of them. I wish I did. I personally use QuickBooks just because I prefer how it's laid out. All of them do the same thing. QuickBooks, Xero, Free Agent, Sage, they all do the same thing. It's all geared up in the same way. It's just laid out slightly differently. I think for me, QuickBooks has a lot more add-ons that make it a lot easier for people. So if I was a small business, it's not that expensive. They've got the app and you can just basically snap your receipt. It goes straight onto the review. It's just very easy to navigate, I think. For people who don't have a business accounting background, Xero and Sage can be quite technical sometimes, whereas I think QuickBooks is just a bit more straightforward. But they all do the same thing. There's not one, I think, does anything different to the other. It's just what you prefer. But
I get training. Don't just assume it's as easy as the adverts tell you.
Oh god, yeah, the adverts make it sound like you just log in, click a button, and magically all your accounts are there. But it is going to take a lot of trial and error and a lot of patience. So I would say get it now. Do what you're doing with regards to your record keeping. Still do that, but do QuickBooks on the side. And then at the end of the year, see if the two marry up. If what you've got written on your spreadsheet matches what you've got on QuickBooks, happy days. But it is going to be a lot of trial and error with that and just playing around with it.
Yes. Yeah. And if you do get it wrong, it can be quite costly.
If you don't have a clue, just don't bother trying because you'll just mess it up.
Just invest in a bookkeeper.
If you've got, a lot of transactions, I do with a few clients have got online shops or physical shops, and they've got a lot of transactions that they just can't keep up with on a daily basis. Then get a bookkeeper and get them to do it for you. If you don't have that many transactions, I guess then it's just personal preference whether you want one or not.
Yeah, I think that's a really good tip actually. We find this with the shop where we take cash in and we log the cash on a spreadsheet, and we have a till, and then we have a safe, and then we transfer money, and then pay it in. But the longer we leave it, the more issues there are. So if we were to be disciplined and say every time it gets to 250 quid, pay it into the bank, that it works. But by the time it gets to like 1,200 quid, there's always like mistakes with inside it. And the longer you leave it, the bigger those mistakes start to sort of escalate out, don't they? So the same with your spreadsheets and bookkeeping. Do it as at least sort of if daily is probably too much to ask because people are time poor.
If you just do it once a month,
monthly,
do once a month, get your box of receipts, whack them on a spreadsheet, or just however you do it, just sort it out once a month. And then when you come to the end of the year, when it's time to do it, it's not as daunting a task to sit down and you just got to put your 12 months together then. Which is why I did that pack, that there's a bit at the back where people can put their monthly figures in. So when they come to do it at the end of the year, it's all there straightforward and they don't have to trawl through all the paperwork. It's just not putting your head in the sand and just think, right, you know what, I've got to do this. Because otherwise you could be spending a fortune on stuff that you don't need to. Right. I had one guy which you spoke to spending a fortune on this massive marketing company that's done absolutely nothing for him. You know who I'm talking about, lovely lad. And has spent a fortune on something else. I can't remember what it was now. I'm just like, why on earth have you spent that much money? And, if he'd spoken to someone like me or you, we would have said, no, don't spend that much money on that. It's not worth it.
Yeah, and I have spoken to him, and he's spoken to you, and he's also spoken to Kirsty, and I think he said the same to all of us. It's like, if only I'd found you or me or Kirsty like 6 months ago or 3 months ago, we would have saved him a hell of a lot of money. But
I said to him to speak to Kirsty and Adam, because he was spending ridiculous amounts of money on this massive marketing company that don't have a clue about the industry. So what they were doing was completely was good in a sense of what they were putting together, but not targeting it in the right way.
But that's the thing about business, isn't it? We don't know what we don't know, and we're not taught this in school. And this is what I suppose is what our groups are there for, and our courses are there for, aren't they? To bridge those gaps.
Yeah, exactly. Give some help out there.
There's definitely some help now. There's definitely some help, and we're definitely trying to bridge some gaps. See, Rosie's watching. She saved the vet £1,400 a month on marketing that they did not need. Wowza.
There you go. This is what I think people think they need. When it comes to marketing, I think people think they need these massive corporate marketing companies to spend, 800 quid a month doing all these weird and wonderful things. But if they don't know, if you've got such a niche industry that you work in like this one, and they don't know how to target or who your target audience are or how they can be contacted, £800 a month wasted. Why don't you get someone who is in the industry, who knows people in the industry, who knows what groups to go on and who to contact and etc., and pay a fraction of the price. For example, like Rosie, Kirsty, me, you, who know the industry and know people within the industry that can help you with loads of different things, not necessarily, for that guy that we're talking about, I didn't just help him with the finance element of it, which we did obviously solve, but is also his marketing, and everything else. So it's about, just being a bit smarter with your money and not just thinking, oh, they're a massive corporate firm, they must be able to help me, because you're going to get, your eyes ripped out and probably not a lot of return. It's the same. Yeah. It's the same with, I know that's probably a bit extreme, but you know what I mean. This is why people go to massive accountancy firms. Oh, well, they must be good because they've got a shiny office, but you don't get that personal service as you would go with someone who's self-employed in that industry. I'm sure if everyone went up to a general accountant and went, oh, what do you think about Wet Pet Pod or Savvy Software or blah blah blah, they'd be like, I have no idea what you're talking about, you crazy person, go away.
Or people that don't so there's been a few people I've been speaking to where accountants are telling clients not to go VAT registered. They don't, and I think that's not understanding the industry again. They're like, well, what can you do after VAT? Are you going to scale your business that much? Well, actually, yes, you can. And people just don't get the industry. I don't understand it. I went to a BNI meeting, and you know, as a pet groomer, owner of a dog groomer, is that's very nice. You know, I'm not really sure what BNI could do for you. You know, I'm not sure what we can offer. And it's a lot of money, isn't it? It's a lot of money for you to.
Where's Frank?
On a BNI meeting, get Frank back.
Yeah, the viewers want to see Frank.
They're like, oh, it's a lot of money. A lot of money for you to spend. You know, a little company like you to spend on the BNI membership. And I was like, yeah, but we turn over like over 150,000. They're like, oh. I
hate those BNI meetings. I have to say. You know, I think if there was a pet specific one, fabulous. But when you go to generic ones, what a waste of time. Like, that's just my personal opinion. I hope I don't offend anyone, but I just found it, like you said, they're very patronizing. And it's just, oh, what a load of crap.
They just build the industry. Thanks.
Hello, baby. Hello, baby. Come here.
There's Frank.
There he is.
There's a little monster.
There he is. Who's this? Look.
I like his little, he's got like a white bib, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got like a little white stripe. I think he needs the loo, in all honesty. He's probably going to wee on me. But this is Frank, everyone. He is 4.5 months old and is a little terror. But yes, there we go.
Is Frank going to be a stud dog?
Do you know what? This is what he likes to do. I don't know what he's doing or where he's going, but
they all do that.
He wasn't his little tail. He wasn't going to be. We didn't get him for that purpose. But because he is so beautiful, and you can't appreciate how beautiful he is in this because you can't really see him, but he's such a beautiful looking dog that I think, that he probably will. I don't know where he's going. This is not going to end well. Oh no. God, he's going to jump off the chair. Right, stand.
He's after your bird.
There you go. Oh, that hurts. After his nails. Yes, him and Herbie just set each other off every 2 minutes. The bird goes, he barks, the bird goes. It's like a zoo. But yeah, the BNI meetings for me, I just, you know, I think, you know, if anyone's out there, they should start a pet one, you know, get loads of different pet businesses together, or even just if it was like a groomers one, just like a little groomers focus group or something. I don't know, but
I think the general that's the group that you're talking to.
Oh yeah, true, to be fair, but you know what I mean. But the BNI ones, I think, like you say, that they're quite, you know, oh well, I'm a dog groomer or I'm a dog trainer, and they're just a bit like,
they belittled the industry straight away until I told them the turnover.
And so do accountants, you know, yeah. And it's the same. I've had so many that have come to me because they've said, oh, I went to my local accountant and they just basically turned their nose up and went, not really interested. You know, I cover the whole of the UK. Obviously, yeah, I'm based in Bedfordshire, but, you know, I've got clients in Scotland and all over the place because of that very reason, and that a lot of them, he's definitely going to be on the floor. A lot of them just go, oh no, I don't really want you as a client, and I just think it's ridiculous.
No.
But
well, I'll let you go and chuck Frank out for a wee.
He's eating the washing. It's fine.
It's been great to catch up with you.
Yes, you too.
Week because you're so busy.
No, I just thought, oh, Bill, it's fine. You can wait.
Actually, you know, we're doing the start course next Friday, so you'll be there delivering your little module.
I will be there
around lunchtime, and then we'll catch up then, hopefully.
Yeah, so if anyone is thinking about doing the course, I 100% recommend it. Like we've said, you know, it does cover a wide range of topics, including my finance section, which will help you get off the ground with your expenses and your tax returns and all that sort of stuff. So definitely have a look. Like I said, it's all allowable and expense. So don't look at it, oh God, it's, you know, it's going to cost me a few £100. It is an allowable expense. You won't get taxed on it.
No, that's it. I think it actually relates to that little thing you put into your group, doesn't it, about how much we spend on books, equipment, but how much do we actually spend on our own training.
Exactly. I saw that I'm on another random group that I'm in that's not it's an accountancy group, and I thought, oh God, that's so true.
Yeah,
we do think, oh, I don't want to spend that much money on that, but then we spend, you know, £1,000 on a laptop or whatever, and you think, well, actually, could have done that training course rather than going and buying this fancy laptop. But
That's it.
yes, anyway, yes, thank you. Anyone, if you want to get in touch, then I am on this group. Just drop me a message or via email on my website, and I'll get back to anyone who's got any questions.
Yeah, and I'll chuck your website address in the chat so people can go and check you out.
Cool.
All right
then. Well, enjoy the weekend. Football's coming home. Woo!
Yes. We'll see you soon. Speak to you soon.
Right,
Cheers.
see you soon. Bye.
Bye.